You're not really here.
But I am. Max. I am.
Welcome, everybody, to Aeon Byte. Welcome to the latest AB Live, episode 131. So much heresy and so happy to see you. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am still your Pompatus of Gnosis, that madman across the waters of creation. And you just saw an introduction or a promo video for Astronosis. It is next Friday, and we're very excited because it's going to be amazing. The speaker lineup is amazing. Some of the insights that they've told me they're going to share, you will not hear anywhere else. The workshops are going to be magical with very cool, interactive, and helpful, magical and meditative keys. And the panel is just going to be awesome. We still have physical tickets left, a few, but online tickets are available. And please join us because it will be exclusive, and I will not be sharing these anywhere else. They will probably remain under a paywall because, again, this is completely exclusive, and we want to make sure that we get this as an intimate event every year as we grow Astronosis, because we need this more than ever. We need to interact physically. You need to have the gnosis that only you should have and is not out there in a world full of AIs and algorithms and other archons, which will be our topic today. So please join us for Astronosis. There will be links on the show notes. And yes, it's there next Friday and Saturday, the summer solstice, St. John the Baptist Day, and all that good stuff. But enough of that. As always, it is truly an honor to have the Golem God killer himself, David Block. David, how are you?
It's great. Thank you, Miguel. Thanks for having me on. And it's a pleasure, as always. And I hope we have a great show.
Oh, as always, yes. People get very excited when you come here to the Virtual Alexandria to share your insights, which are always mind-blowing. And with us, we've got the concerned transhuman himself, Vance Sachi. Vance, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm scared now. I'm scared because supposing the AI takes over CERN, then what's going to happen? Oh.
Exactly. Interesting times, but they've always been the same times. There's always an Archon threat in any time, in any place, and it's
It's
up
true.
to us to simply do what we humans do best: wake up, innovate, create art, all the stuff that has allowed us not just to survive, but really thrive and create amazing things in the universe and make a better universe, not just for us, but animals, the environment, and all that. The gods themselves sometimes thank us. So here we are. Yes, I see the chat is growing, the chatico. So if you have any questions for David after this will probably be just the first half of well, let me back up, David. It's a 4-part series, but we'll probably go to 5 parts. And if we have to go to 6 parts, let's do it. The important thing is we get that gnosis out to you. But if you have any questions, again, please super chat them, because that's the way we can easily pluck them out from the ether of the Chatico and address your questions or comments or anything else you have. And it does support this show when we need, well, I can't do it without you. And if anything, as always, please like, subscribe, and get the word out there. Very important. And I do appreciate those of you who support on a weekly basis or when you can. So I think that's all I got, really. Why don't we just, well, let's stop wasting time. Let's just get into it. All right, David, do you want to say anything or just bring up the presentation?
We bring up the presentation and I can talk a little bit about it. In the first slide, this is the 4th part, Abaddon, Apollyon, Genes, Monsters and Men. And it is a little contribution to Joseph P. Farrell. And I'm going to talk quite a lot about his books here. I hope it won't get boring, but quite a lot of information there. But it's very, very important. We haven't come to the exact same conclusions, but a lot of it is very good information. Highly recommend his books. And we are talking about Apollyon here today, and it's not like Apollyon is the evil demon, but it is a harsh force to work with, and it is a force you have to transform, otherwise it can be quite rough for you. This is very hard to finish what you start when you do the method, an esoteric method, or you will fail and you will take the consequence of it. And we know maybe Apollyon from the book Revelation in the Bible, and it's the book number 66 in the New Testament. Very interesting number, and we find this number 911, and that number is, everybody knows about 911, of course, but in the Revelation it states King James Version, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. And the number 11 is, of course, very important in qliphothic practices and esoteric methods. And it's the 11th Sephiroth on the qliphothic tree. The seeker, the hidden Sephira, leading to the other side of the tree. And if you add up 1, 2, 11, you got number 66. That is 1 plus 2 plus 3, all the way up to 11. And I'm going to talk about this number much more later on. There's two very different ways to go about esoteric method. We have an elite that use a lot of technology. I'm going to talk a lot about technology and material aspect of this. When I talk about the Tower card, of course there are much more to that card than just the material stuff. The most important part is the mental understanding, the mental state of what you're supposed to work with mentally, with your spirit. But today I'm going to focus on the material part. Doesn't mean that I don't understand the other part. But we have to cut straight to the chase here. And of course, we have this famous tarot deck from Aleister Crowley, and the card number 11 is very, very important for Aleister Crowley and O.T.O. and Thelema and all of that. And on this card, he has changed the card from the Rider-Waite deck to Lust. And you have this lady riding on this lion, and this lady is Babylon. Babylon is referred to as the Scarlet Woman, the Great Mother, and the Mother of Abomination. Her god form is that of a secret whore, and her primary symbol is the chalice or grail. Babylon is often described as being girt with a sword and riding the beast, with whom Aleister Crowley personally identified as the beast 666. And we come back to this 11th Sephira, the Black Sun and Saturn, and all of those are related. It's very complicated. Doesn't mean that Aleister Crowley is evil. Evil is much more complicated than that. You can say that he started something and that other magicians took over and run with it.
Right.
And we come into the technology part through Jack Parsons and NASA and all of that. So please, no evil mail if you're into Aleister Crowley. We are going to talk a lot about Greek mythology here. And this is exactly the reason why I started state what I did in the beginning here. And you will understand, and I will try to explain what's happening here. We have a satyr in the Greek mythology, a satyr Marsyas, challenge Apollyon on a duel, a music duel. This is very important. Remember this, a music duel. When he played the flute in rivalry with Apollon's lyre, lost that risky contest and also his life, for they had agreed that whoever lost would become the victory's prey. As he shrieked in agony, Apollo ripped his skin off his limbs. So when you do this, when you go about this business, is a strict method, challenge the forces, see to it that you win, that you transform these forces. If you ain't up to the challenge, if you are the wrong kind of a person, you will fail. Then we have Dante's Inferno, and I will come to that more soon. He opens the Paradiso, the third and final book of the Commedia, with appeal to Apollo, the god of prophecy and poetry, to possess him and make him a suitable instrument to deliver his message. They're talking about music instruments, but of course, instrument can mean a little bit different things there. But this is how esoteric people use language. Pay attention, they play around with words, numbers, symbols, and you get layers of meaning in it. Let's return to Sumer and to a very important myth or mythology. They ain't myth, but it's more of a reality. But in Atrahasis states the following. It's about Marduk. Marduk is the main Anunnaki god of the younger Anunnaki gods. Atrahasis. Sarpanit is born. Marduk espouses Sarpanit. The Gigi come down and espouses daughters of man. Now, it's more that the Watchers came down to prepare the Nephilim to be able to sustain the spark, or to be able to have this ignite this force later on. Marduk defeats Tiamat, Kingu, Belial's blood. In this mythology, they use Kingu's blood to fashion mankind. Therefore, we have Kingu's blood in our veins, meaning that we can always come in contact with the Ancient One. Doesn't matter how much they close it off. It is within us. The Anunnaki fear the rise of a new race of demigods. The genetic tree of humans is thereafter altered. Human population increase in disturbing numbers. This is according to the Anunnaki gods. I am not the one to state that. But remember that, because that is exactly what the elite is talking about today. I don't agree with that. The deluge comes, and the vessel of Atrahasis survive. Marduk take over the right to rule, and he got his 50 names. If I can't rule in heaven, I will rule in hell instead. Marduk fixed the stargates of the elder gods. Marduk fixed the gate for the moon god. The keys shall be hidden except for my offspring. The matrix is sealed under Marduk's 50 names. Enlil's son takes over, Ninurta, Saturn, a farmer god. The demiurge is born through Marduk, Enlil, Ninurta, and Saturn. And Ninurta is Saturn. But all of these forces, I would argue, is within this demiurgic complex. Are you with me so far?
So far, so good, or maybe so bad.
Yeah. And of course, I'm going to take you through this. This is very important to know the Anunnaki mythology. It's very important to understand what's happening today. You will see a lot of this mirror in what we call the so-called elite. This idea of depopulation and that we are too many. The idea of technology. This is very important. If you don't understand the background, you will not understand what's happening today. And I'm going to prove it here today, I hope. This is genes, monsters, and man. The power of man is the power of the ancient ones. The power of man is knowledge of the ancient ones. Power is in the blood of starfire. Blood of the ancient one is the blood of man. The blood of Kingu, Belial. The ninth gate is the door to the abyss, that which we must cross to complete our journey. To enter the gate is to surrender to the divine feminine, the dragon Tiamat. Connecting with the source of our life allows us an unlocking of latent DNA, to tap potentials of genetic memory encoded into the human condition. This is a war over your DNA. This is genes, monsters, and man. And make no mistake about it, that is what we are today. And I will try to prove that. Let's see. Back to Dante's Divine Comedy, and just to show that a lot of it is he's talking about this demon Apollyon, or Abaddon. In Paradiso, the third and final candiza of the Divine Comedy, Dante is primarily concerned with justice. Many of the figures he meets during his tour of heaven are concerned about injustice that prevail on earth, especially corrupt rulers whose actions harm everyday people. Dante and Beatrice meet 12 wise men in the sphere of the sun. So here we can see, and I agree, that if you can overcome these forces and transform you through these forces, then you transform and you go further on your esoteric journey or with your method. So it's not like it's evil, but if you don't manage to overcome the ordeals, then it can become very dangerous for you. Therefore, there is a reason why, like Christian, deem all these forces evil and dangerous. But you have to be able, or you have to risk it in order for transformation. Nothing important is without risk. It's how we learn. But if you have the right attention and right focus, you will transform. And this is a very powerful method. I'm going to talk about those who have failed this, and we all know them. We call them the elite, but also the ones who succeed. Because first and foremost, I want to inspire you to do this journey, but it is not without warnings and it's not without cost. You have to redefine yourself. And we humans are very comfortable. We know what we have. Change is hard for us. Can be a small change. Now we're talking about a total transformation of yourself through a method. So for the most important here is to inspire you to do the work. At the same time, it comes with a warning, and I want you to know what's going on today in order for you to be able to protect yourself against this. So we have this movie, Inferno, with Tom Hanks. And Dante's Divine Comedy is very important in the plot, in the narrative. And this character Langdon is up against an organization who want to spread a virus that alters humans' DNA in order for them not to be able to have children, and therefore take down the population number to what they deem okay. And in this movie, a car comes up very close to Langdon, and it has a plate on. The car says QX666P2. And of course, that's a reference to the Black Sun, and P2 is a Freemason lodge, P2 Lodge. And I want to remind you again that this movie is about virus, increased population. The location they are filming the movie in is Florence and Venice. That should tell you something. If it doesn't tell you anything now, I will promise you it will tell you something very soon when I present the demiurgic elite, where they come from. Back to Sumer and Babylon. We have this Anunnaki family. The main god is Anu, and Anu had two sons, Enki and Enlil. The Enki line is the shepherd kings, and the Enlil line is the farmer. This trinity is the older generation of Anunnaki gods. The younger Anunnaki gods ruled by Marduk. He took over the right to rule after defeating Tiamat. He got his 50 names and the right to rule. The problem is that this doesn't settle the score between these families. Rather, it's just ramping up a conflict even further between these lines. And I will show you and argue that Ninurta takes over and you see it in the Old Testament. Therefore, the right to rule goes over to Ninurta, or Saturn. And we have this famous incident we are talking about before, so I'm not going to talk about it that much. But I want to point out a couple of things here, because it's very easy to go astray. Who destroys the tower and who is building it? Because there are misunderstandings here. You see, Nimrod is not the one who built the tower. It was the Mardukites who built the tower. The priesthood of Marduk, of course with help of workers. But it is Nimrod who destroys the tower. And Nimrod is Ninurta, is Saturn. And he has an order from Enlil to destroy it. And Nergal is also in on the destruction of the tower. And Nergal is Mars, the god of war. So this lightning flash struck the tower and destroys it. And I will argue that this tower existed and it had a lot of technology attached to it in order to reach the heavens, open stargates, open tunnels. After this, Ninurta and the Enlil line starts to take over again. So it's a war, it's a battle going on between these forces. Even though Marduk got the right to rule, they didn't just accept it and said, okay, let's end this. And when I say the right to rule, he was supposed to be the gods above all the other gods, the god that you should worship. Doesn't mean only one god exists, but I am the god you should worship, not the other ones. Then you have Marduk, Jupiter the Younger. Marduk, Merodach, Serpanit, Muluki, Jupiter. Marduk fixed the stargates of the elder gods, and the stars he gave image as the stars of the zodiac, which he fixed in place. His heart called to him to devise a cunning plan. He approached Io Enki, saying, "The key to the gate shall be ever hidden, except to my offspring. I will take my blood, and with bone I will fashion a race of men, that they may keep watch over the gate." Marduk sealed and closed the matrix under him. And this is from the mythologies, coming from Sumer, in form of clay tablets. The industry and raw expensive power of Jupiter is placed at the height of most Olympian pantheon, Zeus. The original designation of Jupiter is 50, the number attributed first to Enlil and later to Marduk. Marduk passed through and surveyed the regions of heaven, and over the deep he set the dwelling of Nudimud, Enki. And after measuring the structure of the deep, he found his mansion, Olympus, which was created like unto heaven, and he set down the fixed district of Anu, Enlil, Enki to reign. And here you have the connection between Marduk and Zeus. Marduk is Zeus, as stated before. But it's very easy to think it's Enlil, because both of them have 50 and is attributed to Jupiter. But it's a war here. They are taking over this force energy pattern. It's a war over Jupiter and Saturn, you can say. So it's very hard and it's very easy to go astray. But it's very important because the details is very important here. If you won't go astray and lose the grip of the narrative. And then we have maybe the main god here today, Ninurta Saturn. Enlil, elder Jupiter. It can be said that Enlil is indeed the god of the Israelites and the Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions, and with his own heir Ninurta as successor to him. And Ninurta is Saturn. And I think you all know what this is. It's the Kaaba in Mecca. And of course, it's a reference to Ninurta, Saturn. And Saturn is a farmer god, harvest, sacrifice. Nimrod, Baal Hammon, Saturn, names attributed to him. And Aleister Crowley is talking about Babylon, the whore, the sacred whore, and B9 Saturn is attributed to this force Babylon. And in this belly of the beast, you have a silver female genitalia underneath the cloth, the black cloth. So what is this silver genitalia? What is this all about? Of course, it's not an easy answer, but I will give you three, and two of them are very related to each other. The goddess Ishtar is the daughter of Enlil, sister to Ninurta, but Ishtar was a rebellious daughter of Enlil. They didn't have control over her. Sometimes she went over to the Enki side, sometimes with Enlil's side, sometimes as a rebel doing witchcraft. And then you have Lilith, and Lilith is the moon, so a moon goddess and a feminine lunar goddess. And silver is, of course, attributed to the moon. And it is the ninth Sephiroth coming to Tiamat, the gate to the Ancient One goes through Tiamat, the female dragon currents, inside of the belly of Ninurta Saturn, trapped or closed or swallowed, sealed off. But they cannot keep you out, but they can make it very hard for you to access it. The best way for them to do it is really to convince you that you are a sinner and your award will come after death. If you're a good boy, most important, good girl, that's the most important stuff. But even a good boy is, of course, about control. And we can see this in the Muslim faith. Most out of these three. So who are the servants of the demigod? Because they are a serving class, serving the demigod. And we can trace them back to Babylon and Egypt. And from Babylon and Egypt to Rome, with a detour through Persia and Carthage. And from Rome, they went to Venice and Florence. Remember in the movie Inferno? They were in Florence and Venice, hunting for this esoteric organization or And from Venice, they went to America through Columbus. And for a short period of time, they ended up in the Netherlands and finally ended up in London. And it's a banking family elite. And their symbol is the snake for the most part. And in Babylon, they were the ones who started with the banking system we have today. Of course, it had been fine-tuned, but the idea started in Babylon. And the priest class was heavily involved with it. They minted and printed the coins in the temple of a specific god. So, to cut to the chase, let's talk about some specific families. And you have probably heard one of this before, and probably the second as well, but in another name. I want to mention 3 families. I can mention more, but this is enough. And you have the Rothschild, you have the Este, and you have Abbas. Let's start with the Rothschilds. You had a Rothschild called Mayer Rothschild. He was involved in starting Illuminati, for example. Another was called Alfonso. Albert Anselmo Solomon Nimrod was another Rothschild. And now you see the name Nimrod comes in here because they want to trace their family back to this character Nimrod. Now, if you think Nimrod is a falling angel or a watcher, you have gone astray already. Nimrod is Saturn. Baal Hamon, the demiurge. So you have some family names within the Rothschild attributed to Nimrod. And this Alphonse had a son, and they named him Albert Anselm Solomon Nimrod. 2 very interesting names in there, Solomon Nimrod. Of course, Solomon, the Solomon's temple, is the new Babylon, or the new Babel's tower. The second Solomon's temple was built with Babylon banking money when they released the Hebrews, the Jews, from the imprisonment. Freed by Cyrus, so-called Great. Let's talk about the Este. Who are they? They are an elite family from Venice. And this is a problem when they're talking about these 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati, because no of the Italian families are mentioned, and that is a mistake. I will say that list, the 13 bloodlines, is not correct. The Este family was split up. Welf, Este, and Hanover. And the Hanover part of the Este ended up in England, take over the throne in England. And the Este family ordered a tarot deck called Sola Busca to be made. And this Sola Busca is the oldest tarot deck that are complete. Nothing missing, no card missing. It is all of the cards is there, and it is 78 cards in the deck. Therefore, it is a real tarot deck. I'm going to talk about this deck because this deck exposed them, their worldview. And then you have this Abbas family, and Abbas is of course Fauci. And Fauci, Fauci, of course. Everybody knows him today.
The Fauci?
So here you have the Solabusca tarot deck and the Este. The Solabusca is the oldest complete tarot in existence. It is also one of the first to be produced using copper plates engraving, a fact that accounts for its high quality and fine details. Dating from the late 15th century, it appears to have been commissioned by or for a Venetian patrician, De Este. The elite, and what you come to conclude in this deck is the following. And a very interesting man called Peter Mark Adams wrote a book about this tarot deck called The Game of Saturn. And he comes to these conclusions. The elite worshipping of the demiurge as Baal Hammon, Moloch, Kronos, Saturn, ruler of the material world, because the demiurge, they conclude, was the god of this material world. And this family didn't have an ambition to become one with the light or to try to reach the source. No, they said, all right, if the demiurge is the ruler of the material world, then we want to rule here with him or through him or work with him to gain treasures of the material world. They had no ambition to become anything more than that. They were fallen. I would argue that they already lost their spark, therefore they cannot go back to source. A ruler of the material world comes with child sacrifice, baneful magic through the fixed stars, and there are 15 fixed stars used to work with in esoteric practices. Conscious reincarnation into the same family bloodline through a method, through esoteric method. Because if you are at war with most of the planet, then surely, and if you want to destroy their opportunity for the rest of humanity, you don't want to be reborn in the family you have destroyed the potentiality for. No, you want to continue on with the game in the same family you left off from, to come back to play this game over and over again with the rest of mankind in mind, of course. If they are stuck here in the material world, and if this demiurge is their god, is the god of this material world, then let's worship him. In the Solabusca deck, we find only 3 cards that are similar to the original tarot decks, and one of them is the Tower. But in this deck, it is number 20. And number 20 is, of course, a number attributed to Saturn. Now I have a little bit different take than Peter Mark Adams in his book, because I think he's wrong with this one. But you can argue, but I think it makes more sense if you understand it this way. Nimrod is the name of the card. And you see the tower is struck by some kind of lightning or wind. And the tower is, of course, built by Marduk. And if you read the Sumerian mythology, it is destroyed by Nimrod, Ninurta. So it's Nimrod, Ninurta, calls down this lightning flash that strikes the tower. He's drawing down the lightning. He's not struck by it. People think he's struck by the lightning, and that Nimrod is one of the watchers. Another card, very interesting card, is number 21, called Nebuchadnezzar II. And of course, this Nebuchadnezzar is very famous because of the Old Testament. And he is the last great Mordecai king. And he wants to rebuild the Tower of Babel. In this deck, he's the card number 21. It's the last card in the deck. And he's sitting there and contemplating. He doesn't seem very happy. And he had this disc above his head with a dragon and a cross. And that's the demiurge. He's stuck in the material world. And interesting is that the card number Fool 0 is Nebuchadnezzar II as well. And here he is in the wilderness, going mad, eating grass and bugs and all that shit they want you to do today. Here he is piping this bagpipe, and he failed the contest with Apollyon. The music contest is lost, and he is stuck in materiality. And of course, there are more meaning to this. I can't talk about this card, but I want to remind you about the contest against Apollo, the music contest that failed, and he was stripped. The end is also the beginning, an ever return to materiality. The fall, Tower of Babel, starting all over again. He becomes the fool, and we have to raise up society, the infrastructure, to go back where we started. And have another go to break out from this matrix prison. But if you're an elite family who doesn't want to or cannot break out of this matrix, they will not be interested to allow you to break out of it either. Therefore, when an apocalypse comes, as today, they will try to keep you here. Because they know the time is now. They are not stupid. They are naive because they think you're a piece of shit, but they are wrong. And this Fauci Abbas family have a very interesting family coat of arms. And in this coat of arms, you see a bichon. And a bichon is a snake eating a child. And in this case, the snake is yellow, and it has 2 buckets of gold on each side of it. And that's because the Abbas family was a mining family. They mined gold and used children as labor. They were interested in mining gold, children, medicine. Where does this come from? Vaccine. And bichon is the family coat of arms. And you can see this snake symbolism and this recurring theme within these families. Gold, children, sacrifice. And for some reason they are interested in medicine and vaccines. Some of them, not all, of course. Now in the movie The Shining, I have decoded it in 3 parts with Miguel, but today I will go even deeper into The Shining, because Stanley Kubrick knew a lot of stuff. Here you have Danny standing on this hexagon. And the hexa is a reference to Saturn, among other things. And it is Danny who stand up against these forces. And you can say that he succeed in the ordeal against Apollo and become this 42. Jack is falling prey to these forces and become the demiurge, or this evil force. stuck in the hotel forever. You have always been the caretaker, Mr. Jack.
You should call it Hotel California too, then.
Yeah. Job security, huh?
Like working for the government, yeah. The Demiurge government.
Can't get fired.
Oh.
Frozen, but not fired.
The frozen part is great, I think. Yeah, now we come to Farrell's book, The Grid of Gods. I should pay attention. There's a lot of information here. I will try to make it as good as I can. Consider the possibility that there is an alchemical cosmology in very ancient stone monuments. Or consider the possibility that an ancient and hidden elite laid out an entire global construction grid and then built it over millennia. Consider that it then disguised an advanced science within religious myth, concealing a sophisticated physics. And he's talking a lot about the Giza Plateau, of course. And the Great Pyramid on the plateau have different shafts pointing to different star constellations. Orion is one of them. The fixed star Sirius, the dog star. And on the other side, one of the shafts is aimed at Ursa Minor, and another is aimed at Draco constellation and the fixed star Thuban. In other words, we have rotation. He's talking about the Giza Plateau now, and all of these three pyramids on the Giza Plateau. And they have rotated them. In other words, we have rotation within rotation within rotation, all on the surface of the Earth, which is rotating on its axis, revolving around the Sun. If, therefore, as engineer Christopher Dunn has argued to preservedly in the Giza power plant that the Great Pyramid was a machine for the production of power, indicate that the entire compound may have been designed as some sort of machine, of which Giza is the center, is truly massive. And then he's go over and talk about this guy Middleton Jones and Wilkes rotation of Giza through 250 degrees. And if you see on that, you see the hexagram. When you rotate these three pyramids with rotation within rotation, aimed at the sun, it's very important. Because I think they are aiming these pyramids towards the sun. That's their goal, even though the shafts is pointing towards different fixed stars. But the main goal is the sun. To transport energy. Sound of DNA. Dr. Konstantin Merrill's paraphysical interpretation of ancient temples as scalar resonators. And he's talking about they are writing in codes here. And the code system is as follows. Ancient temple, short wave station, dedicated to one god, as Marduk, for example, fixing the frequency. Supreme God Zeus, range of the short wave. Father of all gods, all short wave bands. Priest, amateur radio operator. Clear enough?
Yeah, he must have been a radio operator himself, I bet. He was a ham himself.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think they're on something, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't mention this. Doesn't mean that I agree with Joseph P. Farrell on everything, but, and this is very important, I am the one that states that they are transforming using DNA, and the mining of gold is a code, and that's the main purpose. Farrell is more into that the Giza plateau is a weapon. I don't think it's wrong, but I think the pyramids have been used for different purposes. The sound of DNA again here. Dr. Konstantin Merry's paleophysical interpretation of ancient temples as scalar resonators. The Temple of Zeus has 5 megahertz, sending out a frequency of 5 megahertz. The Apollo Temple of Corinth, 9 megahertz. So they are sending out different frequencies, megahertz. This is very interesting because these temples are all over the planet in different forms and shapes, but they are everywhere. And they are, for the most part, put on ley lines. And I want to remind you of one quote from Lucifer. Waking to the grand scale of terror and its source will in fact rid mankind of the fear altogether. The table in the temples of the money changers will be turned, and then the walls of those temples will fall. Lucifer. And he's talking about these temples here. And in the New Testament, you have this Jesus, Joshua character attacking the money changers outside the temple. Yeah, the sound of DNA. I want to remind you again of one quote from Belial here, because this is very important. I want you to have it fresh in your mind when we go further into this maze. By harnessing the sound of silence or the sound of the Hebrew alphabet, which are associated with each path upon the tree of knowledge, the first 22 strands of encoded information can be activated within the race of man. This is to take back the book of life from the false god, Belial. Because we are going to talk about DNA now, because this is the most important component in this grid of the gods, in these temple structures. It's made with you in mind. Ancient esoteric doctrine held that mankind was a microcosm, a little universe, who mirrors in its very constitution a body and a spiritual, or if one prefers, hyperdimensional component, the larger universe. Michael Hayes decided to examine it more closely, and as a result found the breathtaking connection between the code of sacred geometry and the fascination with certain numbers and human DNA. For with living organisms, as Dr. Merrill himself alluded to, and more importantly mankind, one arrives at the final component and resonant cavity of this form of energy, human DNA, and its own remarkable embodiment of the very same sacred geometries. The temple in antiquity were all short-wave broadcasting stations, and energy from the field served as an energy source. In the case of the solar god, the radiation of the sun was used. An explanation here. In physics, radiation is the emission or transmission of energy in the form of waves or particles through space or through a material medium. So here we have DNA as a transducer or as a antenna, and a very important phenomena in combination of these temples. In Farrell's Babylon Bankster's Human DNA and Hermetic Code, the I Ching. Yes, in order to give myself a kind of visual aid, an image of the code in action, I had drawn up a diagram incorporating the key number of the biochemical components involved in the process. There were 4, 3, 64, and 22. And the number 22 is very important here. Hayes recalls his reaction to this discovery. By this time, having recognized so many similarities between the I Ching and the genetic code, I was convinced that I was onto something of profound importance. So far so good, but what about the number 22? Was there some correspondence between the I Ching and DNA involving these numbers? Hayes puts the problem this way. Now this hexagram, as I said earlier, just like the biochemical hexagrams of the genetic code. The answer came when Hayes recalled that the number 4, 3, 64, 8, and 22 were significant components to the Hermetic Code and sacred geometries of the West, and more particularly had a direct connection to music. The number 22 was the key number of the Pythagoreans. The answer is very simple. Is if one sits at a keyboard instrument and begins with the note C and goes upward 8 notes using only the white keys, one will arrive back at C, an octave higher, exactly 8 notes later. Repeat the process again a third time, and one arrives back on the 24th note, which is once again C. But since 2 of these C's are but repetition of the original C, one might think of the 3 octaves as embodiment of the number 22 as well as 24. In other words, the number of the Hermetic Code or sacred geometry appeared to be a legacy of a long-lost civilization, predating all the high civilization of the classic era. The Sumerian, the Egyptian, the Mesopotamian, the Chinese, and the essence of that code was not only musical, but genetic. It was, as Hayes concluded, a natural harmony, and DNA itself was a natural resonator and transducer of it. And remember the contest between this Satyr and Apollo. Music is very important. The resonance is within us, our DNA. They are talking about CC, in the music scale, and it's going into the DNA as well. The C and this G and this same letters are used. So CERN thought it was a great idea to give an art prize to a lady that constructed a tarot deck called Hexen 2.0. And it's all about transhumanism. Every card is about transhumanism. I'm not saying that transhumanism is bad, but I will say that when technology take over your spark or your light source, then it's not good for you. We are here today, we can talk to each other, I can talk to the world, all my brothers and sisters from all the different countries. That's great. But when it takes over as the elite have fallen prey to this, then it's not good. The number 16 in this deck is the Tower. The Grid of the Gods, I call this card. We can see DARPA in this card. We can see total information awareness. We can see internet. We can see cell phones, airlines, emails. We can see the name DARPA. And we got the internet 1991, but it was DARPA and CERN who gave it to us. It's their invention. And this is called, you have transhumanism, data mining, and internet. Very interesting choice of words. I don't think they gave us the internet out of their huge kindness for humanity. I think they had a plan. And I think if you think they are stupid for doing this is one problem with these people. They have no respect for mainstream humans. They didn't understand what we could do with the internet, because we have art, we have creativity, we are creative. When they let loose this kind of technology, they opened the box and the cat was out. But surely they want to take control over this soon again. But internet was a very important component for their agenda. Therefore, they had to put it out. Without this internet, they cannot go ahead with the plan I'm going to talk about right now. But when they did it, they knew it was a war over time. The clock started ticking. But they couldn't imagine that we would come this far and in this short amount of time. They are panicking now. The information is coming out. We are sitting here. We can share. That's not good for them. Of course.
Of course.
My focus was, I'm back to Joseph P. Farrell here. My focus was on the enormous implication of DNA, superconductivity. But here, our interest is on the other aspect of the phenomenon, noticed by Cooper, electron tunneling. If DNA is such a resonator and transducer of the information content in the local field of the physical medium, it stands to reason that some specific genotypes will be more of efficient resonator of it than others. Therefore, I also think there is a huge experimentation with this medicine. Let's call it like that. We don't want to be shot down. There's a huge experimentation going on. And people react to it very differently. It's not only a depopulation agenda here. That's one aspect of it. But there are even a more important agenda in the background for this. That is about your DNA. And here we have it. Moderna's patent. And I'm not going to show you all 200 pages, of course not, but I want to point out a very interesting thing here. And it's paragraph 9. You can find this pattern. It's Moderna, 2020, July the 2nd. And in this pattern we can read paragraph 9. I'm not going to read all of it, but in the end of the paragraph 9 it says, polynucleotide ATCG may be chemical modified to AT5MEC2G. The same polynucleotide may be structurally modified from ATCG to ATCCCG. Here, the deonucleotide CC has been inserted, resulting in a structural modification to the polynucleotide. They are talking about changing DNA. And this is their words, not mine. This is the pattern. Of course, what they're talking about here is the strand of DNA. You have adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine in your DNA. In a little bit different structures, I think. I'm not very good at nature science. I can only point out what they are saying. And the sad part is, it would be great to have very informed doctors talking about this. I had one approaching me and asked me about why do I always end up in esoteric people when I'm talking about this medicine? I don't understand. Can you explain it to me? And I tried, but of course it wasn't very easy. But there are some very good doctors shouting out. And maybe we will have the truth through nature science as well. I only point out the esoteric agenda behind this. So you have this polynucleotide. You have A, adenine, T, thymine, C, cytosine, and G, guanine. Modified to AT5, MEC, and G, meaning ATCCCG instead of ATCG. 2 more C's, 2 more cytosine in this modified DNA. Why am I mumbling about this? Well, it's a very interesting thing happening when you use the base 6 English gematria in this ATCCCG scheme. The A becomes 6, the T becomes 120, C18, 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 and G 42. And if you break them down, you have 6, 3, 9, 9, 9, 6. And if you add them up, and if you are very fast in math, you have already noticed that the first row becomes 2, 2, and 2. And the row behind it, below it, becomes 42. That's the same number Danny has on his shirt. And that's the number, that's completion of something. For you, if you use an esoteric method and you're stuck, you work, nothing happens. And then you take a giant leap forward. Then you have come to the number 42. At last I have figured this out. At last I have come to the next level in my esoteric method journey. The aiming is, of course, transformation. But for these people, it's transformation in a negative way. But it is transformation. It's an alchemical transformation taking place. And you have this fool's journey, and the fool's number is 42. And in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you have this artificial intelligence answering the meaning of life and everything. And it's very interesting that it is an artificial intelligence who come up with the number 42. Now, can this be a coincidence? Yes, it can. Of course it can. But I have to point this out. And even though it is a coincidence, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to talk about CERN, because all the internet traffic is aimed at CERN through 5G and 6G. Connected. They take power in CERN from all the computers to a giant computer. I'm sure it's hubs in between and so on and so forth. And a very interesting thing is, of course, that outside CERN in their yard, they have the Shiva statue.
Yeah.
And it's not a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence with these people.
No.
And you should see the ritual ceremony, ritual movie they had put out of the tunnel opening. Very interesting. And I'm an esoteric person myself. I'm not saying this is evil. What I'm saying that if you use technology aimed at a passive population that doesn't know what's going on, they are not using any method on themselves, on a spirit journey, they become passive vessels for an esoteric method through technology, and that ain't good. And in the CERN logo you have 666. And 666 is attributed to Thagirion, the Black Sun, the Antichrist, the Apocalypse, Beast 666, Shiva. And the demon lord ruling in that cliffa is Belphegor. And Belphegor offers the heresy of the creation of golems and servitors. Right?
Right. For those that might be listening in audio, yeah, the CERN one, the logo has the 3 6s kind of around it. So obviously, and no accident. Everything's carefully designed.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to break matter, is what they're doing. They're using more and more energy to break the physical structure of the universe apart more and more. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think those 6s are the representation of the ring that they accelerate. And then when they accelerate the particles to a certain energy level, then they shoot them out.
Right.
And then those little stems are where they shoot them out to, and then they break something apart. But it's interesting that they made it like 6s.
Yeah. And a lot of the people who work at CERN in the inner core is Jesuits, of course. The initiatory process of Thagirion is also represented by Shiva, the image of the conjoined force of Lilith and Samael, signifying the daimon of the shadow self of the initiate. Or they may appear as one being, manifested as Baphomet. Now, this is not an evil thing, but this is forces you should transform yourself through. And it is very important that you do it correctly and that you overcome these forces or work yourself through these forces, not to succumb to them. And this is from a Jesuit from the 1650, stated this. The official Jesuit monogram of EHS, where the solar symbol for Saturn is subtly stylized to appear as a Jesuit priest Athanasius Kircher, as he secretly reveals in 1650 that this entire time the official Jesuit seal of EHS never contained the letter H within it, but it was more akin to the letter C, which he reads stand for the Latin word corona.
Mm.
Corona of the black sun. 666. And you have these 3 nails below the letters, and a nail is a vav in Hebrew, and a vav has the value of 6. There are 3 nails crucified Christ to the Antichrist, or Apollyon, or Tagirion, the black sun, the Antichrist. So here you have the Jesuits heavily involved with CERN.
Interesting.
And you have World Health Organization having a Shiva statue
Yeah, look at that.
in their meetings.
Hidden in plain sight.
Yeah. Why do World Health Organization have a Shiva statue? What's all that about?
Yeah, I don't think he's the Hindu god of healing or health.
Shiva is also about destruction in order to create something new.
Right.
And here is a quote from Lucifer again. I could spend an eternity mentioning the various symptoms of human disease that cause fear. Music is weaponized. The education system is circumvented to breed ignorance. And the medicine industry is killing you instead of aiding your health in a positive fashion. Lucifer. And in that sentence, you have what I've talked about, they accept education. Back to the Moderna pattern. And this is paragraph 630. And here they're talking about DNA. Self-assembled nanoparticles, self-assembly of short DNA, and nanotechnology. Why? What's in this so-called medicine? Let's say it like that. Well, if we use some nature science and examine what's in that stuff, you will find exactly what they're saying. Small circuits, self-assembled circuits, connected to 5G, 6G, connected to CERN, connected to Thagirion and the Black Sun. So take your digitalized DNA, harvest it as a battery.
Mm-hmm.
Rough statement. And I will try to back it up a little bit more by this article. Come from Massachusetts, and University of Massachusetts. They are talking about humans as a battery source for machines and AI.
Where have I heard of this before? I can't remember, but go ahead.
And next generation wireless technology may leverage the human body for energy. right? They came to mine gold.
All right.
You are gold. What they want is a closed matrix system. The demiurgic digital matrix with you in mind. And it is a technological singularity. A a system contained, and you are the source of the system. Your car, your banking, digital ID, the court and law. You will be judged through a chip who have monitored your entire life and what you're doing on a daily basis, and then they can rewind it. They want to connect you to the moon and have a wireless internet, interplanetary internet they're talking about. We are talking about money, of course, and in Sweden it's hard to pay with cash. They want you to pay with your card. And if they shut it down, you will not be able to pay your bills. And you are stuck in this demiurgic digital matrix prison. Connected through 5G, 6G, CERN, source harvesting. Now they need a working force and one shot or several shots. And they have their system in place. And we come to the movie Matrix, and I think it is very accurate in a symbolic term. Because when your reality becomes this bleak and dark, they will offer you a solution. Well, we can connect you to a virtual reality as real as this one, and you can sit here and just be a passive battery, and you can have your Garden of Eden paradise virtual reality your entire life. The only thing we want from you is your energy source battery. And some people will jump at this. And of course, now I'm talking about people left, because of course there are a depopulation agenda going on here as well. But the one remaining, they want to have control over. They want to connect you to a grid. And we come back to the CERN ritual opening ceremony. And the first thing happening is a group of people walking as zombies for minutes, exactly the same way they walk in Metropolis. Taking from that movie. And the movie Metropolis is about a communist society with esoteric method and technology. Because communism is what they want for you. For they have the esoteric method. They don't want to share that with you. You should be a working human, happy, don't own anything, be passive, and you have this esoteric elite taking care of you. And since they cannot go back to the source light creator, they want you to be stuck here as long as they want you to be stuck here. And this is the ultimate method to do it. The communist agenda, there is a reason why they're pushing this bullshit. To tell you you're an animal, You have no soul. You should be happy in this human zoo without the gender, the same stupid shirt, no titles, no money, no nothing. Then you are stuck here forever. That's the end of things.
I agree with you.
Quote from Lucifer. The most dangerous state of mind. This is the most dangerous state of mind the ruling class shall ever face, because by mankind seeing that they have nothing to lose, they will also see they have everything to fight for. Though most of the power that flows through the human race remains dormant, the sheer number of those awakening to the threat by my light will overcome the few who oppress the sons and daughters of Belial, Lucifer. And this is where we are at today. And the most people are just passive. They don't know what's going on, have no clue. Very soon they will awaken to the fact that they have been fooled. And I don't know what the elite will have in store for us next. Probably one more push with this agenda. And then maybe an alien invasion threat. And they have all this, I'm not going to talk bad to people, but you have these alien morons who talking about aliens channeling, or they are everywhere and all, and we should wait to be saved by them. No, you should not be passive. You should be active. Nothing will come here and save you. You will save yourself.
Exactly.
And you should be happy about it. That's the reason why you're here. Don't wait for a blue alien coming down for. Don't wait for Jesus. Don't be passive. That is exactly what they want. And we have a very interesting esoteric called the Philosopher's Stone. And that's about individuation. Because now I want to lift you up and tell you there is a way out. Nothing is lost here. Rather, we have a unique opportunity. When we see what they try to do, we also see what we can do. When we come to this apocalyptic situation, it's the moment where we can break free. It's when the cracks in the demiurgic matrix is shown to us. Therefore, I will not call these forces evil like the Demiurge, Marduk and all of them. No, they are rebuilding the infrastructure they need for their agenda, but at the same time, we also need this infrastructure in place in order for us to be able to escape or to transform. See it as an opportunity. While the Philosopher's Stone is an alchemical phenomena, and it's about individuation, an individuation process. So let's talk about that. And I want you to take you back to Greece one more time, the mythology, just to remind you about this battle between Apollo and Marsyas. When he played the flute in rivalry with Apollo's lyre, lost that risky contest and also his life. For they had agreed that whoever lost would become the victor's prey. As he shrieked in agony, Apollo ripped the skin off his limbs. This is a music contest, and it's of course about overcome these forces. And these forces are in full display right now. And you can see it also, because if you become prey for these forces, it should come as sexual depravity or debauchery, gender euphoria. You have the need to show up your sexual habits to everyone and everything. pedophilia, abuse of sex. And I think we can see that in full display today. And I am not like a Christian. I don't care what you do at your home. Don't care. And as long as you don't hurt yourself or your partner. But leave the children alone, and you don't have to tell everyone what you're up to. Then we have this phrase, vitriol. And I take a quote from Belial again. You shall be illuminated by the black light of the knowledge of good and evil. Gold and silver or the X and Y chromosomes as small codes from the book of life are written upon your genes. You will gain sovereignty over the powers of heaven and hell. Belial. One more time, he's talking about the gene and DNA. Okay, what vitriol, what does it mean? Let's break this down. Visit the interiora of the earth, and by rectifying what you find there, you will discover the hidden stone, the philosopher's stone. It is considered a core medium of alteration and is seen as the symbolic secret fire that guides us towards spiritual excellence. So what is this philosopher's stone? Where do we find it? Where to search for it? The heart of the tree and of universe is a mediator between the worlds above and the worlds below. And you have three paths leading to Tiferet or Fagirion on the tree of life. You have more, but if you come and going up on the tree, you have three paths. And the cards leading there is death, art, and the devil. 13, 14, and 15 equals 42. But now you should overcome and work with these forces. Now you shouldn't be passive. Now you should use the solar force energy, Apollyon, Abaddon, to enlighten you. Work with these forces. You have this green lady, Ishtar, mixing the moon and the sun together. Combination with this gender, the female, the male gender. Doesn't mean that on the material plane, this is a metaphysical plane. If you don't understand it, you start to talk about that esoteric people want you to change gender. That's not what it's about, right? That's just a misunderstanding. We are talking about a metaphysical mental state, to be in balance between these forces. You need to have balance if you're going to overcome this ordeal. And Alistair Crowley renamed the card 14 to art. Art to create something new. It can also be physical art, but the most interesting aspect here is, of course, you are art. You should reinvent yourself. You should be creative. You should be able to imagine what can be gained. You should be able to imagine what is in the unknown. It gives you focus. Of course, 13, 14, and then the devil is very interesting. 13, death, you die. The old self dies in order for you to create something new through art, craft making. If you don't overcome your ego, the devil, you will be stuck here. And you will fail Apollyon's ordeal. So we have this Baphomet, and Baphomet is a symbol for, among others, combine these forces of Samael and Lilith. And you can call them bad if you want to, because they will test you. And if you don't have the right attitude, the right mental state, yes, you will fall prey for them. And if you are a real esoteric practitioner, you know that. And you should be careful. Doesn't mean that they are evil and try to hurt you deliberately, but you have to manage to pull through. In rites of Lilith and Samael, sexual alchemy rests on transmutation of the physical into spiritual. It fails when the person cannot transcend beyond the experience of flesh, when erotic ecstasy remains focused in sexual organs instead of being sublimated into spiritual exaltation. In other words, when the main focus of the work remains in the three lower chakras and fail to be pushed into higher power zones through the heart center, it may also have a regressive character if the person gets stuck in carnal lust, seeking sensual pleasure for itself. Now take a good look at the so-called elite and what they are doing. And of course, you can see this in the movie The Shining, and I will show you very clearly very soon. You have these 7 chakras, and you should ignite them one at a time with method. One method is to go up and down, and another is from below up. Below up is the path of the snake, and above and down is the path of the dove. Now let's talk about the path of the snake, the Kundalini awakening. It is considered a core medium of alteration and is seen as the symbolic secret fire that guides us towards spiritual excellence. And when you start to work with this, and when you arrive at the 4th chakra, the 4th chakra, downward up, is Anahata. And this is very important, because now we have reached, it's not the heart chakra, but the chakra is where the heart center are at. But Anahata means the unstruck chord, the music yet to play, the gap, the silence in the belly of the beast, snake, dragon. I come to that statement soon. What does it mean? The heart chakra, or the sun, you have to push the energy force past that chakra and up, all the way up. If you fail, you will be stuck in the 3 lower chakras, and you will start to misuse sexual energy instead, or sexual practice instead. Become possessed by it, use it for your own sake or to boast your ego or do whatever, but it will not be used for any idea to reach a higher state of the light. And if you fall here, you will be stuck here. And the heart chakra is where the sun are. And of course, back to the movie Shining, because here it is the most beautiful way to illustrated. It is through the movie The Shining. Stanley Kubrick knew what he did here. Because the boy, Danny, is going from the moon room, number 9, to the gold room, the sun room, number 6. And of course, the sun room is Fagirion 666, where the esoteric elite are stuck forever. And what they try to do is to harness energy. Going from 9 to 6 or 6 to 9. And you have Jack, who has failed this ordeal miserably. And in the end of the movie, he has to pose as Baphomet, showing you that he has failed the ordeal with Samael and Lilith. And now he become a prey for Samael instead. And Lilith is of course the naked lady in the room, the moon room. Lilith, Samael combined. Sol et coagula, the ability to destroy and create. Because he is destroyed, but he creates Danny. That is exactly what you are going to do. It may also have a regressive character if the person gets stuck in the carnal lust, seeking sensual pleasure for itself. And here you have the conclusion to the scene where they discussing what is it? It's like
Furries, yeah, the furries.
Hey, they don't get enough screen time, you know.
Yeah.
Go back and see the movie The Shining again. Buy some popcorn. You will see what I'm talking about.
He was there.
The elite are the busy bees. And here's a statement from a Neoplatonist. The busy bees are the souls drawn towards incarnation by the desire for honey delicious, the pull of material satisfaction. The beehive, the six-sided hexagram. Because if you can't ascend towards the light, the source, then this is your playground. Or so they think. So, what are these elite busy bees? Well, we can conclude that they are worshipping the demiurge of this world. We saw it through the Este and the Venice elite. We see it in Rothschild. We see it for the fact that they practice sacrifice. Sorry to say it's not only myth. They called him Baal Hamon from Carthago, Carthage. And he is Ninurta Saturn. And they practice children, sacrifice, and sexual depravity. They rely on technology because they're stuck in matter. And what is the end of this? What is the conclusion of it? They are searching for power, money, gold, sex, and everything that can please them on the material plane, because that's the only playing field they will ever know. They can use rockets and they can force their way to the moon, but they are still in the material world. Doesn't matter.
Right.
And of course, they came here to mine gold. And with them, the human elite, the chosen few, doing their bidding. And here we come back to the famous floor, window shining, and we have Dan's feet on this hexa shape. And this is just perfect choice in design, of course, for many reasons. Not only that it is a hexagon and the hexa of Saturn, but of course there are much more to this. We have the NASA logo, very interesting, right? Some believe that the red thing is a serpent's tongue, and I sad to say that I have to agree. And the worm logo is called the worm logo. And you have this interesting phenomena that after OTO, they had another esoteric organization based on OTO called TOTO, based of Jack Parson, and based on technology. And TOTO becomes Toto, as in Dorothy's dog Toto. And I think I have decoded the movie The Wizard of Oz, and I think the most people are wrong. Because what I think it says is when they send away the Wizard of Oz in the balloon, they're saying that thank you, Alice Crowley, the Wizard of Babylon, but you have only talked warm air. Now we are taking over, and we take your knowledge, but we want to do this with it. And they manipulate a child, Dorothy, to do their bidding, to walk in their shoes, to walk in their red shoes. And here is Danny sitting on the carpet and rising up. And you have his shirt, Apollo 11 USA. And the number 11 is called the twins because it's 1-1. Equals 66 equals the magic formula Abrahadabra. Opening up the moon room. Opening up for these forces. For Danny to overcome. Because he wins. And that's great. Right? It's a good ending to this. And I think Stanley Kubrick are correct. So you have this 6 hexagram, and if you add a pentagram to it, it's 5 plus 6 equals 11 equals the lust card. Babylon. But with no spirit, these people will use technology and force in order to experience what you can do without. Therefore, you will see that technology will be what you can do mentally, spiritually, you will see it in material form, because this archetype will try to mimic what you can do. Therefore, you will see a Tower of Babel in physical form, but you can be your own Babylon Tower antenna to the gods, to higher mental planes. Now back to the Giza Plateau a little bit and the pyramid. You have these shafts pointing towards Thuban and the Draco constellation. And Thuban is associated with gold, snake, Alpha Draconis, and reptilians. And the seamen called it the dragon's tail. It is in the belly of the beast. So vitriol, a more correct term for it, might be visit the interior of the earth, and by taking back what you find there, you will discover the hidden stone. And what is the hidden stone? What is the philosopher's stone? The ninth gate is the door to the abyss, that which we must cross to complete our journey. To enter the gate is to surrender to the divine feminine, the dragon Tiamat. Connection with the source of our life allows an unlocking of latent DNA to tap potentials of genetic memory encoded into the human condition. Tiamat. We have to go back before these younger gods created this matrix for us to transcend, because this is also an experience for us. But enough is enough. So here you have the myth for the dragon laying on the gold, guarding its secrets. Because what is he guarding? Or in this case, she's guarding your DNA for you to unlock the philosopher's stone. Your 22 strands of DNA. And they have changed the music scale. So it's off. This music could ring with harmony with your DNA if you have it correctly tuned. And you will probably experience out-of-body experience if you have this music playing. It will vibrate and let your soul or light source leave your body. And you will start to ignite your DNA again. And it's called Kundalini, the Kundalini snakes and so on. Now it's a little bit hard because they are calling Marduk a dragon and so on and so forth. You have to be very careful what you're talking about here. What I state is that it had been a mental manipulation with the human race to be afraid of the ancient one and to pray to the new god, the Anunnaki gods, and to be passive and fear the ancient one, fear chaos. And they are feared to be had because they shouldn't go about it in an easy way. But it's hard. It's not easy to steal gold from a dragon, but that's what you are going to do. But we have to risk things. And this is a journey into the deepest caves of our mentality, our deep unconscious memories forgotten about. Of course, it hurts sometimes to unlock those memories. And of course, it will feel like staring into the eye of the beast, for sure. But we have to be willing to risk this, because this is our destiny. No one has said life is easy, but it is very interesting. It's an adventure, hard, tough sometimes. But when you find meaning, when you understand that you are waiting in the dragon's lair, the real you, then there is no more purpose interesting enough for you except to walk in to the dragon and slay it. And I will end this presentation with a quote from Lucifer himself. And I thought when I made this slide Bilbo ended up exactly on Lucifer's chest. Therefore, I said, well, I leave it like that. I hope you don't think the graphic is off, but I thought it was very beautiful that
No,
Bilbo is
it's
standing
good.
on Lucifer's chest. Perfect spot. But Lucifer had a very interesting thing to tell you. And this is a very good end for this presentation for this time. And I will come back, and if you want more parts, just tell me.
Oh yeah, of course.
Instead of wading in the fecal matter of systematic agenda of control, you must see the turmoil as clues which can be reversed engineered to bring mankind back to a state of divine existence, free to create joy and exercise power to advance the world as a whole. You must simply focus on the work of building something else. Unite and create change. And I think we are here to do just that. When they are pushing us, we will push back.
We already are.
And when we fall, we will help each other up. And we can inspire each other. And we can come together as we are here today and talk to each other. Some people are very lonely, just awakened, don't know what to do, only read or listen to conspiracy theorists, and that's not good. It won't change you. It doesn't transform you. But it's good to know what's happening around you in order for you to protect yourself against it. But it's not what's going to save you. It is transformation to find the real authentic you. I'm not here to try to convince you to do this hard and harsh journey because I want you to become something I want you to become. No, I want you to become who you are, your authentic self. This is not an ego trip. It is the real you laying under the belly of the beast, waiting for you. And when we have found our self, then we can be a family again. Yeah, I hope you have enjoyed it. A lot of text, but I had to, because I understand it's very hard to believe what's happening today, but I think it's very important that we do.
Beautifully said, David. Yes, well said, and really an amazing presentation. You covered it all. Positive solutions, everything else. Much of what you say is what we've been saying on AM Byte, make Tiamat great again, and other themes. So love it. It's been great. I don't think I see any super chats. If you guys had questions, thanks Chester for your donation. Always helps. Vance, what about you?
Me, I'm all taking it in here. It's hard to have particular questions. It covers so much ground.
Yeah, and it's so thorough.
Yeah, I love the connection between the different cultures and mythologies. You know, and to see the correspondences.
Yeah, there is connections between Greek mythology, the myths from Sumer. You can see that they have jumbled around, they have changed a little bit. Enlil have taken a back and disappear in the background. They try to promote Marduk as Zeus. But they are, if you just start to read and you see the connections.
Yeah, I called it in the chat. I called it the grand unified theory
of the demiurge.
Yeah, of the demiurge, right? Because yeah, it's there. Of course, about the perennial philosophy. That's kind of this really is kind of a perennial philosophy, seeing all the common currents and threads and energy flows between the different cultures, because we're living in the same world ostensibly. So it makes sense that even if cultures see it a little differently or personify things a little differently, that it's always going to be the same mechanism that we're trying to describe. You know through all these anthropomorphic representations.
Exactly. And one person asked about Rudolf Steiner's eighth sphere, and that we are going to say. I would say it is what I would call it the Thageron 666. And if you get stuck there through technology and passivity, and I think he's talking about technology doing this as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for the super chat and donation, esoteric teachings. And yeah, it's been a great presentation. Of course, we hope we can have you back on in July and
Yeah.
for more. It's always good. And yeah, the audio version will be out soon today. I'll try to get it out today. And that's it. Yeah. Again, please don't forget to support. I'll have on the show notes about Astronosis. I'll have a link on David's website or YouTube channel, so you can follow that. And I don't think I'm missing anything else. Great comments there in the Chatico. One or two troublemakers there, but Vance, he went all eighth sphere on their asses. So life is good, and we keep it real. So first of all, Vance, thanks for moderating and doing a great job as always.
Oh, you're very welcome. Always happy to do it.
And
Nice.
as always, David,
Having me, and thanks to your audience. And I love to come back if you want me, and we can have a 6-part series instead. I think.
let's do it. Let's put it on. Yeah, let's set it in stone, and maybe we'll get something for July when you're ready. I know you put a lot of work into these presentations and a lot of detail, and they're just great. So when you are ready, July, August, as this year flies by, just
Yeah.
let us know. We'll talk about after. We'll talk about it afterwards. So, but
Yeah.
David, as always, thanks for joining us for this time
Yeah. Thank you.
on Saturn Day of all days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturn Day, and yeah, again, thanks for being here. Appreciate the support, and as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth, and let's make Tiamat great again. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.